Let us start this lecture with a thought process. Handloom textile, a signature of Indian civilization, is the bread earner for millions of people in India. Today, we will be basically discussing about the textile technology, particularly related to handloom in ancient India. And if you look at in the last lecture, we discussed about the agriculture, I mean for spanning over the several lectures, and the food is one of the basic need. Apart from that, the cloth is another basic need along with the shelter. So, today we will be discussing about how to make cloth and how our ancestors were doing that. If you look at our ancestors were familiar with different types of plant fibers, what generally people call it bast fiber, and these plant fibers are made from the root, grasses and inner bark of the trees. And fortunately, in India we were having 500 indigenous varieties of cotton, but unfortunately at this moment we are growing only 20 varieties, and the rest of the things had gone with the wind. And because of India is endowed with a very good climate and good soil, therefore several biodiversities, we are having several kinds of cottons. So, that is why we need to look at the cotton textile kind of things and fabricate it, so that we can. And cotton was the single largest natural fiber used in clothing. Of course, nowadays a lot of other things have come in, particularly artificial fibers like polyesters, nylons and other things. Even today, the India occupies the second position in cotton production in the world, entire world. And they are also using the long hair of wild animals such as wild sheep, goat and also camels to twist into rope for weaving and nettings. And at present, apart from providing one of the basic necessities of human life, it is the plays an essential role through the contribution of industrial output, and also the textile industry generates a lot of employment, and we do earn lot of money from by exporting it. So, therefore, it is very important to look at our textile technology in ancient India. And as I told earlier, textile is the largest industry in the world which uses fiber as a raw material, and particularly in this country it is the largest provider of employment after agriculture. And agriculture and the cotton textile making and others also, silk or jute or any other fibers like wool, woolen stuff are really going well with the agriculture. So, that is important. And beside this, the Indian textile industry consumes a large range of fibers and yarn, where of course predominantly cotton based earlier days, as I told earlier, but not today. And annual consumption of cotton fiber in India is more than 400 lakh bales. One bale is around 180 kg in a year, according to 2014 and 2015 data. And Indian textile industries, particularly in 2014 and 15, contributes around 14% to the industrial production and 4% to country's gross domestic product and 13% to country's export earning. So, it is a big amount of revenues what we get, so also government. Of course, with the introduction of modern technology, the textile production has increased considerably, but the flexibility in design and also the decorative artwork is cannot be implemented in these mechanized textile machines. So, therefore, the creativity is being lost among the people, masses of the people. Therefore, we need to go back to the handloom textile. The modern textile also using hazardous chemicals like benzene, aniline, dioxide, formaldehyde extra to attract the customers by having good colors, and which not only endangers the health of the people who are wearing, but also pollutes atmosphere and water, and it is really not good for to continue. And I will be discussing about little bit more about these points, because lot of you people may not be aware, and as I was not aware about that, and maybe some of you will be knowing, but still for common people may not be knowing. So, let us look at certain data on handloom cut, particularly how it could generates employments. According to the third handloom census in 2009 and 10, which is something around 6 to 7 years old data, but it is interesting. The number of handlooms in our country is 23.77 lakhs, out of which majority of them are in rural areas, around 20.66 lakh looms, and of course 3.11 lakh looms in urban areas with the poor people who get employment out of it. And interestingly, number of handlooms in northeastern regions like of our country, around something 15.5 lakhs, and those areas you can say hub of handlooms, around 65% of total handlooms are in that part. And of course, if you look at the independence or before independence, we are having several handlooms, but those are being converted into now what you call power looms. Interestingly, I will tell you, I had gone recently to see some handloom myself, but when I reach that place, that not a single handloom was there which was prevailing maybe 5 years back, and all are converted into power looms. And number of person engaged in weaving and allied activities is around 43.31 lakh people. Of course, these numbers are receding, maybe today it will be little lower number, because most of them are either switching their job or most of them are converting into power looms. And number of adult weaver and allied workers is something 38.47 lakh, and these people they get a very good or man days rather per year, which is 234 days out of 365 they could be employed 234 days. It is a great number, and they are self employed, they are not depending on the people for getting salary, and they also do from their heart the work, unlike the workers, and then they get benefit out of it and get a very good life. So, now I will be also emphasizing little bit further on why to use ancient Indian textile technology. That is because the ancient textile technologies basically were using natural dyes as compared to the modern days in which people use artificial dyes, and artificial dyes are not good for health and environment. Common chemicals present in the artificial dyes are aniline, formaldehyde, dioxin, extra, whatever I had mentioned earlier. These chemicals are not only toxic but explosive and carcinogenic. and it is hazardous for the people who are using, and particularly in our country where the poor people are involved in that and not much education with them, and they are prone to these hazardous things, and they may get lot of disease without their knowledge for earning their bread and butter. Skin absorb a certain amount of chemical directly from the cloths, because the surface area is more. So, therefore, also it can absorb chemicals, and which are tight. Of course, these cloths particularly nowadays youngsters are using this cloth which are tight to or the close enough to the skin, and that can cause serious health issues. In earlier days we are using loose cloths. Nowadays for to have a commensurate with the contour of their bodies, particularly young people they are using. So, they are subjected to more harms because of this chemical hazardous chemical being used in textiles, modern textile. When toxins are absorbed from clothing, they are taken directly to the lymphatic system and the bloodstream. It is as good as injecting the poison into the bloodstream, and over the time they end up in suffocating an individual skin and shutting down the toxin release process entirely. And of course, some of people can sustain, some of people get diseases like your skin disease and other things. And of course, the formaldehyde causes a lung cancer and skin and lung irritation and contact dermatitis, right. And manufacturers always claim that anti-cling, anti-shrink and waterproof, perspiration proof, moth proof, mild dew resistance and chlorine resistance, lot of things they write on that to leave the people so that they can use, and people get also swayed by their advertisement. Although we know that this is the formaldehyde contaminated clothing and equipment which is dangerous, and one should avoid inhalation and skin contact. But this might be somewhere they will be putting this kind of a sign, but however lot of people may not be knowing that the formaldehyde used in the modern cloths can make poison cloths basically, and under high temperature in humid condition, and all of you will be knowing that our country is in tropical region, except varying few regions, most of are having high temperature and humid conditions. So, therefore, it is dangerous to have the modern cloths using formaldehyde and other chemicals. Although these dyes make cloth looks gorgeous, but they may cause dermatitis, eczema and other skin diseases, especially the dark blue and brown or black synthetic clothings. And the dispersed blue one is classified as a human carcinogenic due to high malignant tumor levels in lab animals. People have conducted experiment in western countries, particularly what I remember that a dog is subjected to this kind of things, and they found that it is affecting the dog, and dog being mammal, so also the human being is being mammal will be affected. If you look at a person here in this is basically dyeing this one with of course a mask in the nose and mouth, and this is a gene which is we people are using, or particularly youth like you are using. And another important things, this synthetic undergarments, right, which a lot of people are using. At least I remember my son used to use that for swimming purposes. I told why you are using that synthetic garments. And trans body heat encourages chemical absorptions and create electrostatic buildup, which all affect the sperm count, leading to the infertility in men. So, this is very dangerous, one has to look at it. And let me tell you, a lot of poor people without any knowledge, they are using it. Maybe it is cheaper, that is why, and maybe it is looks to be gorgeous, colorful, and one has to also use. I remember that my son, when he was small, he used to always go for that kind of things, which is looking jazzy and then colorful and synthetic things, and one has to basically not to use that. So, then question arises, what is the way out? I mean, these are the problems created by the using these cloths manufactured by the companies and luring the people by through the blatant advertisements and also the masking the information, and it is spoiling the health, not only human health, but also the air pollution, water pollution and other things. So, what is the way out? Way out is that we need to look back the ancient Indian textile technology in which natural organic fibers and dyeing were used, and it can generate enough number of employments in India, because if we are could get into that handloom mode, and that talents, the creativity, satisfaction of doing something, helping the people will remain, and mind and body will be remain working in balance. I will talk about it later on, and as a result that we can utilize the cottons what we get, varieties of cottons we do get. We should not get swayed by this BT cotton, which is a genetically modified cotton nowadays coming up, and we will have to use indigenous cottons, and then it will be helpful for us, indigenous, right. And let us now look at the textile technologies in ancient India pertaining to the literary evidences. So, if you go back to the Ramayana, you can find the nettle cloth has been mentioned in Ramayana times, and the references to linen is a one kind of fiber, and one can make a cloth, occur in Maitrayana Sanhita and 4000 BC, and in Taitra Sanhita in 1600 BC kind of things. So, that means our ancestors were aware about how to use this fiber for cloth, and hemp is one kind of again fiber. This botanical name is Cannabis sativa. One of the strongest and most durable all natural textiles has been mentioned in Satapatha Brahmana in Veda. Around people claim to be something 4000 to 1000 BC as Sana. It is known as Sana. So, Arthashastra, a handbook of administration as tentatively dating to the 3rd century BC, dealt with methods of distributing material for to the spinners and weavers. That means this cotton, jute and linen and other things has to be distributed through the government machinery at that time, and as being done today. So, if you look at that system was there earlier days to cloth. Arthashastra also mention about textiles such as white bar cloth from Odisha, linen from Banaras, cotton from South India, and several kinds of blankets. You might be knowing a story about blankets which was around the Chanakya, right. I will not get into that because of paucity of time. And if you look at, this is the thing I want to show you, that this is the nettle yarn which is very fine, and this is the linen cloth which is having a very good strength, and then it is being used nowadays. Nowadays people are very much gaga about this cloth is coming up again. So, also the nettle yarn, and this is about the hemp fiber bags, which is lot of eco-friendly people are promoting nowadays, not only in this country, other countries also. And I will tell you that a lot of concern among the people at this moment for the using unnatural fibers and also the textiles, and mixed textile is also is bad, because you cannot really recycle it and you cannot destroy it also, because if you put that to destroy on the maybe soil or something, that again it will affect the soil. Whereas the cotton, if it is made out of a natural way or handloom, it can be it can be destroyed very easily. So, that is the problem what we need to look at. That is why we need to go back to the ancient way of using it, particular textile technology, and learn something from that and carry forward. So, the record of ancient and medieval India textile exists mostly in literature and sculptures, right. If you look at there is a archaeological evidence of a cotton textile industry at Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley civilization around 3500 BC. Of course, few fragments survive from much later periods, but to get evidence about the textile is very difficult. This thing, but however, people are trying to look at this image what they got, and this portion, if you look at this portion is basically made of textile kind of thing. So, therefore, they are thinking that this Mohenjo-daro people were having knowledge of textiles. And when Alexander invaded this country and he saw and wrote about the fine flowered muslins, one kind of very fine cloths, right, and ropes embroidered in gold in India. If you look at today also, people are having very fine gold being embroidered in the cloth, particularly in Banaras regions, and which are those cloths are the saris and other things are quite costly, but still that work is going on at this moment, but maybe it may not really sustain further. And few good commentaries also observed from early medieval periods 900-1200 ADs, and the fabric names apparently represent the places they belong, because India was a country, as I told, it is not a country, it is a basically subcontinent. There are several various cultures, each people having their own way of knitting. That is the beauty of what India was having, not like the meal cloth where all the design will be similar, or people are having their own speciality, and they that is why in various regions these cloths were woven and details about weaving techniques were scanty kind of things, because unfortunately those things are not recorded, because the methodologies are not recorded properly. The knowledge of the making these fabrics and then designs, motifs in that cloth are basically transferred from one generation to another due to sudden introduction of these textiles, mill textile. Of course, it started with the Britishers, and nowadays it is being very blatantly used, and those things are not recorded properly. And if you look at another traveler like Marco Polo, who came around 1294 AD and mentioned about the production of Bukerams, the finest and most beautiful cloth in the world, like the tissues of spider webs, in Coromandel coast, that is in Deccan areas of the Tamil Nadu, dyeing with indigo in the great textile center of Cambay, and spinning of cotton in Gujarat. Of course, I will tell you I am not going to talk about the history. I have taken few of the points because the history is quite exhaustive in nature, and I will not get into that, but I will just want to impress on you people that we are having evidence that ours were the very good in textile technology. During Muslim period in India, 1200 to 760 kind of thing, textile arts flourished until late 17th century. But unfortunately, what happened, like in the Britishers came and then they basically introduced the mill textile technologies into this country, and then they did not allow the weavers to make the textiles, and there was a lot of rift among the local people and the British government at that time who was ruling in this country forcefully, and that is why a lot of things people got dissuaded not to have textiles. If you look at like this, I have shown you just to a various kinds of textile what I was mentioning to you. Just look at each region, let us say Kashmir, this is the Jammu Kashmir region, is having a different kind of fabric, whereas the Punjab will be having, each state is having their own varieties, specialties, and let me just tell you that this looks very beautiful. And if you go to each state, each jilla or the district will be having their own specialty of the design and also the fabrics. So, if you look at count all those things, it will be enormous. So, that kind of display or the manifestation of creativity among the people, and if we will go for the handloom and we can retain the creativity of the people, which is the natural nature of human being, and flourish it further, and they can lead a very peaceful life. So, therefore, it is important to look at this thing, and I will stop over here, that what is the beauty and then aesthetic sense of our people were having earlier days, that can be reflected in the textile textures made by our weavers even today, and unfortunately this is at stake and in a very bad shape at this moment due to the various regions which I am not going to discuss, but I will urge all of you to take necessary steps as an individual, as a group, to keep our technology intact and also record it, how it is being done. That is important. Thank you very much.